How is it going, everybody? I'm actually a little earlier than normal tonight, thank goodness. Got some things done that I needed to get done in a much more timely manner this Saturday night, early Sunday morning, depending on where you're at in the country. And so, wanted to jump on here and discuss what's been on my mind and heart this week. As I say, at the beginning of every week, what I'm sharing is definitely from the Bible, but I'm adding to it some practical, heartfelt thoughts based on my own reflection, somewhat based on my own experiences, and then hopefully that it brings value to you. So, with that being said, I've noticed, obviously now for the last couple of years, the greatest buzz theme going on right now is to be your best self. It's a lofty goal, it's an honorable goal, and for those who follow Jesus, it should be mixed with the ultimate goal of being more like Him. Our best self should reflect Jesus to those around us, as we're transformed daily by the renewing of our minds, which is what we're told to do in Romans 12. We should be daily growing in Him, learning to be more like Him, to better reflect His love as we learn to better love God and love people. The Bible also tells us that, we're known for being Jesus followers by how we love other people. So ultimately, that's the goal. That's part of being your best self, as it were. But see, the thing is we don't get to that best self without a process. The modern world is full of instant this and instant that. Whip it into a box, throw it in the microwave, and boom, it's done. And yeah, life's not like that. Life is not an instant thing. It is a journey. People talk about consistency and hard work and all the things. But what if the hard work you're putting in is pointed in the wrong direction? Is it then still valuable hard work for the process? What if you're consistently doing things wrong? Is that consistency any good? Of course not. So what am I getting at? Well, I promise I'm going somewhere with this. To be an encouragement here, because when I gave my life to God, I knew theologically that sanctification, as the big theological term, was an ongoing thing. It was a daily walk. It was a daily journey with Jesus. I didn't, quote, just get saved and that was it. And you arrive and everything becomes miraculous and you walk in on air and et cetera, et cetera. You don't just arrive. You begin the process. And so the walk with Jesus is a process. It's a daily walk that more resembles a meandering cross-country marathon than it does a straight line sprint. So there's a process, as if you haven't gotten that point already, to growing into your best self. So many things considered of value in this world are refined by process or purified by process. Gold and silver and precious metals are refined in fire. Diamonds go through a process of becoming what they are, starting with lumps of coal, but then going through insane heat and temperature, or insane temperatures and pressure to become the hardest substance and most valuable substance on the earth. So, likewise, our characters also have to go through a transformation. We see this in all avenues of life. You see it when people transform, improve their bodies through all the social media posts for fitness and trainers, etc. You see it with life coaching and how people improve in various avenues of their life. But here's the thing. Losing weight is way more, just as an example, than just simply hitting a diet and then dropping the weight. Because see, some people can lose weight easily, but then they put it right back on because there's no refining of the character to make it a lifestyle, to keep that weight off for good. Some folks have to go through a very long process because there's a lot of inner work to be done in order for it to show on the outside. such as a proper relationship with yourself, proper relationship with food, learning to reprioritize and put things the way they should be. So my point is the Bible talks about this same theme in so many places. Not everything in the Christian walk is a bed of roses. In fact, life is hard. Simple as that. And the Christian walk is as well. If Jesus and the apostles suffered, and we read about it all through history, you can bet your bottom you will too. As Jesus said, the teachers are the learners are no greater than the master. So if the master is going to deal with something, then likewise so will the followers. God is so infatuated though with us and with helping us grow our character that he will allow life to happen to us in such a way that refines us, to make us more like Jesus, to help us be our best self. So, for those that grew up in church and those who have been to church often, I'm sure you can remember a time where you were moved in a particular service and you prayed, God, I want to be like you and I want to be the best I can be for you, right? Yeah, most of us have. We've all prayed that prayer at some point. Or even if you don't know Jesus, most people want to improve, want to be better. And so you throw that out in the universe. And it's like, I want to be better than I am right now. 10 years down the road, I want to look back and say, I made changes and began the journey to be a better me. See, praying for God to make us more like Jesus is a pretty dangerous prayer because we're giving God permission to do what is necessary to get to that point. Yet when the going gets tough, because we're so inundated with modern society's take on all things should happen right now and be easy, we kick and we scream and we whine, we butt heads with the process, and we actually hinder the work. It's just not one of those things that's designed to be easy. Nothing of value really is. If it's worth having, it's worth working for. So foundationally, because it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture sometimes when things get hard. I deal with that. There are times I've got to recenter. I'm like, Lord, help me remember the bigger picture here. Help me remember the point. Because sometimes it's easy to forget when you're in the thick of things, when you're in the valley, and it seems like there's just no way up. It's tough. And so I want to remind you of two key verses before I go any further. First of all, Romans 8:28 reminds us that we know that in all things God works together, for the good of those who love him and who are called according to his purposes. So regardless of what we're facing, God is working through it, even though it may not look like it is. Because see, his plan is way bigger. And he tells us in the Old Testament that his ways are higher than our ways and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. So obviously, there's a bigger plan going on here than just whether I'm comfortable at the moment or not. Because he's working the bigger picture to answer the very prayer that I prayed. I want to be better. So, in the middle of that, sometimes it's tough to remember. But here's the thing. God's always working, even when you can't see it. And so, when it gets toughest, always remember too, in Philippians 1:6, Paul says, I'm certain that God, who began the good work in you, will complete it. So there is an end. As the old cliche goes, this too shall pass, or whatever it is. And so instead of us whining about being tough at the moment, ask yourself, well, what can I learn from this? How is this fitting in to make me better? Because in some way it always can. How do you get better in order to better handle what's being thrown at you? So with those two foundational promises, let's consider a couple of other passages. Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians 9, he says, starting in verse 24, Don't you realize that in a race everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win. All athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do what we do for an eternal prize. So I run with purpose in every step. I'm not just shadowboxing. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I might myself be disqualified. So Paul compares our Christian walk to athletic training. Anybody knows that if you're wanting to hit the elite levels to be a pro football player or soccer player or an Olympian athlete, Olympic athlete, you don't halfway do anything. You either go all in or you don't hit the pro level. It's just all there is to it. The elite athletes don't take shortcuts. They don't go halfway. They're all in. Those who show the most results are the ones who leave it all on the field or leave it all in the gym, whatever they're working on. They don't cheat the system. They submit to the training regimen and do what their coaches tell them so that they can optimize their bodies to do what needs to be done to perform at the highest level. It's no different with our Christian walk. It's a point where we have to go all in. We have to commit to the process. We have to submit to the process and trust the process. It's as simple as that. Now, I know that sounds maybe easier said than done, but in all reality, it's a matter of just making up your mind. So, if you really want to be more like Jesus, if you really want to be your best self, if you want it bad enough, you'll do whatever it takes to get there. Even when things get hard. And sometimes it's easy to forget. You know what? Hey, this is why I started this, Don't forget your why. You hear that on social media a lot. Don't forget why you started in the first place. There's a lot of cliches that are out there. And a lot of times they're spoken in reference to losing weight or having a healthier lifestyle. But it works on all aspects of our life. It's not just one or the other. It's the totality of who we are. It works in every avenue. So if you want to be better with your finances, submit to a process of budgeting and doing what needs to be done to save and to be more responsible with your spending and earning and et cetera, et cetera. If you want to be better all around in life, you submit to training from a life coach and you follow instructions and you go all in. Same in the gym. And it's the same in our Christian walk too. You can't just halfway this stuff. A lot of us try to settle for mediocrity and expect God to cover the rest of the ground, and it's just simply not, it doesn't work like that. Now, with that being said, I don't want to negate the truth that salvation is by God's grace and not of works, lest any man should boast. The Bible is very clear on that. So I'm not contradicting the word here. What I am saying, though, is when you have committed your life to Christ, when you are in love with Him, the work you do is as a result of the love that you have for Him and in gratitude of the gift that you've been given. So, for instance, most people when they're given their first car, if that happens, say your parents are, well enough to do that, they buy you your first car. You're excited. You are stoked. You treat that car like it's your baby. You clean it every weekend. You make sure the oil's changed. You make sure, you take care of it. That is part of the work, of the process of learning to appreciate your first car. And it's out of gratitude to your parents that you do those things. And it's a similar process in the Christian walk. Now, when things are going easy, it's pretty easy to remember those things. Now, when life has gone to kaput, you're not on the mountaintop. not everything is going well. In fact, you're in the valley. You begin to wonder if you're not part of the valley of the shadow of death that David referred to in Psalm 23. If something could go wrong, it does. All right. There are times when it happens like that. That's when motivation may not be the thing that you lean on, but you lean on the discipline and the commitment to your original why. Those are when you have to push the hardest, because those are the refining moments. Those difficult times are the refining times. That's when the pressure begins. That's when it goes up a notch to be more like the diamond. And Peter and James both remind us with a couple passages in their writings. So in 1 Peter 1, he opens up and he says, "Praise be to God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. This inheritance is kept in heaven for you, who through faith are shielded by God's power until the coming of the salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. In all this you greatly rejoice, though for now you have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials." So the proverbial poo has hit the fan. But Peter then reminds us, "These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, which is of worth greater than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Though you have not seen him, you love him. Even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy, for you are receiving the end result of your faith, your why, which is the salvation of your souls, to be your best, to be more like Jesus." And James reminds us to consider it even pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything, aka your best self, reflecting Jesus at the highest level, as it were. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. So see, they know that it's not always going to be easy, and so they remind us and they encourage us. See, the apostles tell us to rejoice when things are at their toughest, because that is when the work is really being done. When you're in the gym, it's not when you're walking at speed 2 and you're at a 0 incline that real refining work on your cardiovascular system is being done. It's when you're chugging along at a higher end walk, if you're a walker, if you're a runner, you know, you're kind of moving along at a 6.5 on the treadmill, and your lungs start to burn. You feel the lactic acid build up in your legs. That's when the real work begins. Or if you're a lifter, you know, it's not the first 10 reps that you do real easy that is where the work occurs. It's those reps, 11, 12, when you can barely get up 13. And then you grit your teeth and you go for 14, and it almost feels like you're going to drop it on your chest if you're doing bench press. And then you finally push that 15th one where it literally takes everything you have. You might even have to get help from a spotter to finish that last one. It's those reps that the real muscle growth happens, because that's the pressure that's needed to make those muscles grow. It's not the easy reps, it's the tough ones. Time under tension. And that principle not only works in the gym, it works in all of life. You know, this is part of the process to answer the prayer we prayed to be our best self. And there's no microwave recipe to this. It takes work, it takes commitment, and it takes your all. There's no such thing as halfway. When things get tough, as the poem says, rest if you must, but do not quit. God's plan is so much bigger than your mind can comprehend, and as a result, you may not always see the why to everything that you go through, but it will be made clear eventually. You have to trust God, and simply put, trust the process. Like I said at the beginning, trust that He's working everything out for your greatest good, and that He will indeed complete the work that He started. So at the end, you are your best self, and you're reflecting Jesus the way you wanted. Now the question really is, will you trust the process? Lord Jesus, I thank you for your work in my life and in the people around the world to make us more like Jesus, to make us our best selves. Help us to remember that you are always working for our good and that you will always complete the work. Help us trust you, help us trust the process, and most importantly, commit to the work we need to do. Amen. Be blessed. I hope the best for you guys for this coming week. Trust the process. Know that God's working on your behalf. And I love you guys.